Hello, and welcome to the Science Fiction and Fantasy Marketing Podcast, the show where we help you establish your author brand, increase the size of your audience, and sell more books. I'm Lindsay Baroker, and I'm here with my two co-hosts.
I'm Jeff Poole.
And I'm Joe Lalo.
And it's going to be just the three of us today, and we are going to talk a little bit about some of the chats that went on at the Sell More Book Show conference, where I just was this weekend. I got back from Chicago yesterday. I was one of the speakers, which I'm not going to talk too much about my own talk because it's a lot of the stuff I usually cover already on here, but I actually took notes when other people were speaking, so we're going to talk a little bit about like Flagship series. Chris Fox talked about that. Creating product funnels and some of the kind of newsletter things that we may be doing wrong. And I guess that sums it up. Oh yeah, I have some notes, good notes from on Amazon ads from Brian Meeks's talk also. So we'll be talking about those things, and we have a listener question also about what you should do with your first novel as far as marketing goes. But before we jump into that, guys, do you have any news? It's been a little while since it was just us.
Mine is my first audiobook, like I mentioned before, is out. The guy talked me into doing the rest of the series, essentially, and so far the response is really good. So my first fantasy audiobook, the guy just told me he completed the chapters. It's a longer one, so it's going to be probably close to 12 hours. And he's just got to go through some minor edits, and it should be ready to go, so I'm excited about that. My next fantasy should be, knock on wood, it should be done by the end of this month, so I should be able to get it released in end of June. So that's about it for me.
I like how you knocked on your head and it actually made a noise.
The headphone is.
It was like,
don't even give me that. Yeah, I noticed that too. I was like, oh, that does not help the situation, but whatever.
You also let us know with your audiobooks if they, like how they do if they earn out. Were you doing the royalty split?
Yeah, royalty share.
All right, so you don't have to make that much. You don't have to make anything, I guess.
No,
hopefully you will.
I mean, I made my own covers for the things. I modified the existing book cover to make it match, and that was about all I've done for it thus far, aside from starting to send out promotional credits, that sort of thing for it. So
cool. That's definitely the lowest bar to entry for audiobooks. As for me, I have a book coming out in July. I think it's July 11th, which is a Wednesday. I randomly choose my release dates based upon when I have the book done. So July 11th is when the book is coming out.
Oh, come on. Here, I thought you just looked at the calendar and went, here we go, that one.
When I get my cover, I look at a date that is a little bit more than 3 months away, and I'd say, that's what I'll do. So that is Cypher Hill, the 5th book in my steampunk series, Free Wrench. And I have an Apple person that I talk to. Actually, I used to. She doesn't work there anymore, but now I have a new one. So it will probably have an early release. It'll be out a week or so early on Apple in exchange for promo, so that's nice. And I have another book that the cover is just about done. I don't know when I'm going to set that one up for release. Probably, say, a little bit more than 3 months after when I get the cover. And I also am in the early stages of doing something with Story Bundle that hasn't been done before, in which I will do a bundle where I am the only author. We're going to be basically doing the comprehensive Joe Lalo recap bundle, because I was in the very first bundle, and I have released almost all of my books in subsequent bundles. And sometimes somebody cancels a bundle without letting him know, and he needs to fill something in a hurry. And so we're going to be experimenting with recap bundles. But that might be one of the first bundles to include audiobooks. We're going to see. I'm going to try to get a bunch of my audiobooks in there. And some of the other oddities to make it worth purchasing, even for people who have bought all of my other books. So that's what I've got in the works right now.
All right, the Bundle of Joe.
Yeah.
Now available for choose how much you want to spend, yeah. Minimum of $7.
That's right, basically.
Well, since you've both mentioned audiobooks, I should say that Christine Monroe from Kobo was at the conference, and she seemed super excited about audiobook stuff coming. So I'm definitely putting some thought into the next series I do, holding it back for myself and producing it with the narrator I've used through ACX, and instead of going with a publisher, and just seeing what can be done by not ticking the exclusive with Audible box and trying some of these new options that are coming out. So, because I would love to at least be able to report to you guys, hey, is this profitable? Are you able to sell some books? So I guess for news for me, I don't have a lot. I had a book come out that I'd written early. It was on pre-order. It's book 8 in my Dragon Blood series, a book that nobody was expecting or asking for necessarily, but that I just really was excited to do after re-listening to the series on audio books. So I wrote it and I put it up for pre-order in December in some stores, and then I think I got the pre-order up around February in Amazon, and it came out at the end of April. I'm still not sure how many total sales there were on the other stores because I went through Smashwords and the reporting. I think Apple reported, but I still haven't seen solid numbers from Barnes and Noble. I've seen that I have like a couple thousand more dollars than is typical for me to get from Barnes and Noble. So I'm gonna extrapolate and say maybe there were like a few hundred pre-orders, and then there were about 3,500 on Amazon. I was gonna look and see what the totals were, but I will say that's less than I had back when the series was actually really running strong, and because I remember doing pre-orders for books 6 and 7, I think, but it's still, it's a $4.99 book, so it's not like it was a waste of time or anything. And I loved it. I wrote it. It was the wedding between two characters that had been hooked up way back in book 1, so it was a fun project to do. And I'm supposed to be doing a novel to catch up in an old series right now because I've told my readers it's coming, and I will be doing that, but I got distracted and may have started something new also, which is also not the new series I have planned for this summer. So this is how my mind works. It does not want to do the things that I have scheduled to do and agreed to do, but hopefully it'll work out and I'll have some little stuff out in the next few months this summer, and then maybe hopefully my big sci-fi series this fall is the tentative plan. So now that I've rambled, let's answer our listener question before jumping into covering the conference talks. William asked, or he says he's doing a presentation for new writers this week. What would you say is the best way to market a first novel? You guys want to jump on this first?
Well, aside from what we were talking about earlier, jumping backwards in time, now I would say the perma-free option is still the way to go if you have a couple more books released in the series. If it's just the first one, I would plan on trying to drop it as low as possible, just get it out as many hands as possible, because that's what you're looking for, is trying to build your readership.
Yeah, if you have a first novel that's a standalone, I guess what I would do, which isn't necessarily the best thing to do, is hopefully have been building a presence on something like Facebook, or having started your newsletter. Although again, if it's your first book, you might not have anything to build a newsletter with. But basically, I would just use my standard launch strategy of trying to reach out to those people. Again, having the price lower than you would normally sell a similar length book for would help. And I guess try to do some of the promo swap stuff if you can find people who would be interested in pitching your book for you. But a single book as a first launch without a rest of a series to follow it up in short order, I'm not 100% sure how I do it because I don't normally do it like that.
All right, so my thoughts are that it does depend. Is this book 1 in a series that's coming, or is it a standalone? I would treat it a little differently. We've had quite a few folks now who have done the thing where you write the book, you're getting it ready, and then you write the short story or the tie-in novella, and then you give that away for free and use a site like InstaFreebie, or there are, if you hunt around on Facebook, there are author groups by genre where you can jump into and maybe see if they're doing some cross promos. Sometimes people post on the Writers Cafe on K-boards that they're going to do like, a dystopian cross promo thing coming up. And so if you can jump on board with that, sometimes you can get in even if you've got a really small list, which you probably will if you haven't gotten started yet. That's pretty typical. And then, plan to give away that novella or short story that you wrote, which should tie in very closely to the novel. Basically, it should get them excited to want to go then buy the novel. I wouldn't write like a cliffhanger chapter kind of thing, but just a complete story that shows your talents and maybe introduces the characters hopefully and gets them excited about that. And then at the end, if you like the short story, the novel is here. And that if you don't have it yet, or even if you do, encourage them to sign up for your mailing list to be notified when the new release comes out. A lot of folks right now are putting new stuff into Kindle Unlimited and trying exclusive with Amazon first. Nothing wrong with that. And it does tend to be easier to release something at full price if you're also in KU. It doesn't, if you're going to go wide, 99 cents for the first week or two isn't bad. 99 cents for the first week or two isn't bad in KU either, because people will try a newer author, of course, at 99 cents. Whereas $4.99 might be an ask if they've never heard of you. But like I said, if you do the thing with the short story or the novella, they will have heard of you already and be excited to read it. So $5 might not be that much of an ask. And if you are going to publish books 2 and 3 in a series shortly after, I wouldn't worry too much about how book 1 does. Like having high expectations can be kind of crushing if it doesn't live up to your hopes. I had very low expectations when I got started. I thought I could build my way to a career. I really did believe that, but I totally was ready for it to take a while. And I was pretty excited when I broke $100 a month. So low expectations, as I've said before, is the key to keeping your hopes and dreams alive. All right. Do you guys have any more thoughts on that, or shall I jump into the notes?
I don't have any other notes on that.
Yep, I'd say that covers it.
All right, first presenter at the conference was Chris Fox, who we've had on the show at least 3 times, maybe 4. And he was actually not talking about any of his usual stuff. He was talking about how to create a flagship series and kind of why you'd want to, and pointing out that many well-known authors have done this, and he considered a flagship series to be like over 1 million words total. And he pointed to J.K. Rowling and George R.R. Martin, I believe, and somebody else. Oh, Jim Butcher and the Dresden Files as examples of authors where actually you kind of know the series better than you know the author, because that's how they have these huge fandoms that they've built up. And if you're able to successfully create a series like this, you probably not going to have to worry about money again. You can make enough from spin-offs and tie-ins, or you just build your fan base large enough that they'll follow you over to other stuff. And what do you guys think about that? Do you consider any of your series that you have out now to be kind of a flagship series like that?
I kind of do. My Bakken Chronicles trilogy that originally started me off, like I said before, is I only planned on doing 3. But the response was so overwhelming that they wanted me to keep the series going, so I created the 6-book series to go along with it. Response is still going fantastic, and I decided just to do another separate storyline trilogy there, but everything's still in that master, world that I created there. So, yeah, I'd probably have to agree with what he's saying there. I've got 10 books total in that series, that series that covers all 3 of them. Each one is 100,000 plus. So yeah, I've hit the 1 million words plus for that series.
Likewise, my website is called thebookofdeacon.com, which it shouldn't be. It should be called josephrlaloauthor.com or something like that. But it's named that for a reason. I've got over 1 million words in that series too, and it's got 5 main stories and at least 2 other threads that are multiple stories each. And it continues to be my primary earner. It's not as effective. I mean, if I was writing, if it was even longer, then I think it would be better. But as it is, my business model had basically been to lean on the Book of Deacon and then supplement with the other stuff. So yeah, a flagship series works. Hopefully I can keep it working.
Yeah, I've got 3 series now where I have 8 books at least. My Emperor's Edge was my first series. I feel like fantasy, especially those of us that read a lot of epic fantasy back in the day, this comes easily for us. We're like, why would you plan to write anything else? So we have those series. I certainly can't claim to be super famous for any of my series like Jim Butcher and those guys, but I guess a lot of people that come to my stuff did read my first series, The Emperor's Edge, which you should never name your series after the first book in the series, FYI. But live and learn. And
I did that too.
one of the nice things about these kind of series though is once you've got them done, you can just go promote book 1, and you can look at your stats and figure out what the read-through rate is and how much you can make from a new reader, and kind of tells you how much you can spend on that book 1. And even if you move on to other stuff, as I have, I have like new stuff I'm always working on and new series. I still will rotate kind of and go back and promote those book ones every now and then. And if I'm lucky enough to get a book club, I know that that's going to really be a nice boost there, because a lot of people will read through the whole series. And Chris said to kind of create these series, and it didn't just have to be fantasy and sci-fi, even though I know a lot of you listening are sci-fi and fantasy people, because I think a lot of the romance people were like, we can't really do that because we don't have the same characters in each story. But Damon from Book Funnel was there, and he kept shouting things out and being snarky, but he was actually serious when he pointed out that then you create a flagship world. And so you've got a lot of interaction with the characters, sort of introducing the next romantic couple while you're still doing the last romantic couple, so that the reader is really excited to see what happens in the next book, because they want to see those guys hook up. So it's really possible with all the genres, I think. And the way to do it, he mentioned, was you need to open a lot of loops. So in the first book, you're putting a lot of questions out there that will be answered, not necessarily in the first book, but over the course of the series. And Lost was the series on TV he used as an example. There were just so many new things happening in that first season. And then he also pointed out that Lost kind of sucked because they didn't satisfactorily close the loops or answer the questions. So make sure you know the answers or can figure them out on the way. I've certainly done it where I'm just writing along and kind of like create a mystery, and I don't yet know how I'm going to satisfactorily solve it. So just, you do want to make sure you have an idea instead of just making all these unanswered questions for the reader.
Definitely don't forget and give it to like your editor or beta reader, and then come back and say, you forgot to address this question you addressed in the beginning of the story, thus forcing a rewrite. So just a little bit of advice there.
Yeah, that's where your beta readers are good, because they will, if they've read all the series, they can help remind you, because if you're 8 books in and you're writing the epilogue, and I did this totally with Fallen Empire, your beta readers can say like, you forgot to like close this up and answer this question. So that's where those guys can definitely help. And he mentioned also that you want to have narrative drive, as he called it. Lots of stuff going on in carrying the series. He pointed that simple plots don't draw in the reader for the long haul. And that made sense to me. And it was interesting too, because a lot of my series starters are fairly simple plots, but then they become more complicated as the series progresses. And maybe that's okay. I do think you want to be careful not to bog things down in book 1. And with epic fantasy, we can be bad about that, because we've got 6 point of view characters right off the bat, and you're just alternating trying to start everybody's story at once. And that's up to you if that's something you want to do. But I've found that I often accidentally kind of start a series with just a couple of point of view characters, and then the next book ends up being, as it expands as it goes, and then the last book has like 6 point of view characters and ends up being 200,000 words. So that can happen. What do you guys think about that? Do you start off with a really complicated story in your mind, or does it tend to grow as the series expands?
It just does exactly that, grows as the series expands. Just introduce a simple problem, like, okay, I can do that. And I'm halfway through the first book, like, wouldn't it be interesting if, okay, I'll throw in a couple of hooks there, address that in the next book. And the problem just keep developing as the brain won't shut up, essentially.
Yeah, as I start to introduce new characters, those characters get more interesting, and they start to get promoted to full point of view character a lot. And also what I'll do is, like the way the Book of Deacon series went, the first storyline was basically plotted out to be 3 books, and then I would introduce sort of dangling sequel hooks that would become full new arcs. Or what I did with Big Sigma, which is not the best idea. It's brilliant, except that I forgot I did it. Is there's a couple of time travel plots, and it's like, oh, we get to see a future version of that person, and in the future he's wearing a wedding ring, and then 2 books later he'll get an email from someone saying, when are we going to find out who he gets married to? I'm like, I don't even remember that scene. I had to go back and look, like, oh man, and there's a tattoo on his arm that I have now forgotten why it's there. And it's just like, so you can sometimes get yourself lost in the little nuances that you craft into your thing.
Nothing like rushing to your own bookcase, pulling out your own book, and then trying to find a certain spot because you can't remember it, and a reader reminded you of it. That's awesome.
It happens.
Right. So it's probably good to have a lot of possible plot threads in mind, but not try to cram everything into book 1. Just do enough in there that you'll get the reader interested, and then things can expand as you go. But I think it's probably a good idea to plot it all out and have an idea of like what's going on in the larger picture of your kingdom or empire or whatever you've got, and so that you can sprinkle things in there and in such a way that you can expand on it later if you want, but if you didn't, it wasn't really as crucial as a wedding ring. And the last thing that Chris mentioned that you should have in these flagship series is character drive. Not just a protagonist, but lots of characters with goals and motivations they're working toward. He says, make sure to flesh out the side characters and not just the main character. And some books may focus even more, like some books in the series may focus more on a side character than the original character you introduced. And I do think, even though I've done one of my, I would say, flagship series is all from the point of view of one character, aside from short side stories, it was very much, there were other people that had things they were working towards that she interacted with and that were on her ship. And then my other stories do have more than one character kind of working towards goals. Do you guys just mostly focus on your protagonist in the beginning or as the series goes on, or do you start with a whole bunch of characters and jump around?
I mainly focus primarily on the protagonists, but I like, as I introduce new characters, I like every once in a while I like to throw in one of those, and I kind of call them like a little subplot where kind of make this like this person would like to learn how to do this or is striving to do that, and you know, throw in little references to it, or just for in my mind's eye, it makes it more, the character more believable, more realistic, and definitely more relatable. So that draws the reader in. So yeah, I can definitely agree with that. You know, give character drive and just make sure they keep the reader hooked.
Yeah, I usually in the first book in a series will be fairly tightly focused on the main character and then start to expand outward. Sometimes it happens very quickly. In Free Wrench, it was arguably one character was the focus of the story, but by the second book, it was totally an ensemble. The entire rest of the crew sort of had equal billing with the main character. And the first book in Big Sigma had basically just one point of view. And by the second book, one of the minor characters had been promoted to second lead. So I very quickly start to give other characters bigger and bigger roles. And at this point, there's two different spin-offs that I've got from characters that sort of stole the show when they were given some more screen time.
Right, and we should say too that I think one of the reasons this works well, and you can probably think of a lot of TV series like this where there's an ensemble cast and people are working towards different things, is you get conflict between the main characters as well as conflict between the protagonist and the antagonist. So that can make things a lot more interesting, even when they're just trapped in a spaceship together and flying to the next planet. And it doesn't, not everybody has to be trying to change the world. You know, I have one character that he was trying to like become a caterer and a chef and become well known for his product line. And that ends up giving you opportunities for kind of fun little B stories within the main story that I think it ends, just makes it a little more richer and interesting. And you'll never know, your readers may really identify with one random character that you never really planned for him to do much, and then that may excite you into, like Joe said, creating a side story for them. All right, so then you've got your flagship series. Chris talked a little bit about marketing it also, because if you're doing something like this, you're basically going to have to be marketing book one over and over again, and that can be tough. We can all tell you, because we've now got book ones we've been trying to market for 7 years, and eventually you have to be careful because you can only get a book bub so often if you can get one at all. And you may kind of exhaust your audience. Like if you're just constantly running ads on Amazon ads, let's say on the same book one, and people see it over and over, they've seen it, they're going to stop clicking, they're going to lose interest, and the ad is going to lose effectiveness, and Amazon's going to not want to show it as often. So one of the things that Chris was talking about that he was doing, he called it crop rotation. And with his Tech Mage series, he said he had 3 target audiences: military sci-fi fans, epic fantasy fans, and lit RPG fans. And he started out with book one targeting that first demographic, military sci-fi, like probably with Facebook ads and Amazon ads, and using the keywords to really get those people. And then later when he did release the later books, I think he's up to 3 now, he did the epic fantasy fans, and he said he even give a nod to them by changing up the covers a little bit. Like the first one was more geared toward military sci-fi with a guy in combat armor, and the second and third one had dragons on them. still in space, but maybe geared more to the fantasy fan. And he said later he'll do the lit RPG fans. So that was kind of interesting to me, the idea of changing, like each month, focusing on a different potential target audience that might like your stories. I've definitely done ads where I'll focus on just female readers or just male readers, and kind of changing the copy more maybe character-y, that's a word, towards the female readers, and more about the plot towards the male readers. I've tried that a little bit on Facebook, but I haven't gone like, I tend to always target the same authors on Facebook. So I might try that a little bit. I do, since I have so many series, that what I do now is I kind of do that crop rotation thing, but just alternating which series I'm working on promoting, so that I'm not always advertising the same book one. I've been doing pushing my Dragon Blood series since I had the new book 8 coming out, and also the Heritage of Power books were a spin-off series. But I've got a book club coming up for my Fallen Empire box set, so I may push that a little more this summer and kind of let the Dragon Blood stuff rest until like the next thing I have ready to launch. But have you guys tried any of this kind of crop rotation targeting of target audiences?
I personally haven't, but once I was reading the notes and I was reading about that, I was going, that is a very interesting way to handle it. So I have to think about the series and see if I can split them up to a couple different genres there and just target each one each consecutive month there. So I haven't done it, but man, oh man, do I plan on starting.
I haven't. I have only just started to put together my plan for ongoing advertising. Up until now, I haven't done a tremendous amount of it. What I would do is like Lindsay's method. When I had like a book club or something like that, I would I would cycle through the series so that and because all of my series are subtly different genres. There's sci-fi, steampunk, and fantasy for the main series. That's 3 fairly divergent audiences, so there's not going to be a tremendous amount of overlap on them. But I think that and I think I'll still do that. I don't slice up my audiences by different things. Like, I know that epic fantasy people are going to like my epic fantasy. I wouldn't know how to subdivide it further. So probably my crop rotation will be on multiple series instead of multiple facets of the same audience.
Right, and there's nothing wrong with that. Once you have many series out, you have more options like that, and it doesn't really matter which series is paying the bills which month. So, and you know, there's just the more people you're able to bring into your series in general, a lot of those folks will, we hope, cross over and read your older stuff. I certainly have sales every month of my older stuff, even if I haven't marketed it for 2 years. So because I'm always putting out new stuff. Okay, so let's move on to mailing lists a little bit. Brian Cohen talked about this, and we had some chat too. Damon from Book Funnel chimed in a couple times. I was a little bummed that he and Christine from Kobo and also Dan Wood from Drafted Digital was there. I kept telling them and kept telling Brian, these guys should have had a panel, because I always love hearing what they have to say, because they get so much just of the raw data that they can look at and kind of see trends and what people are doing. But for mailing lists, Brian was emphasizing that you want to set up your list on a mailing host server, write a giveaway, as we were talking about, like a short story, a novella that you can give away for free that ties into your series or your novel, and then create an autoresponder sequence. And we had a great episode on this with Andrea Pearson. I will try to remember to put the link in the show notes. It was a few months ago, but I'll see if I can hunt it up for you there. And she went into a lot about what she says during her autoresponder series. And this is just like, if you're not familiar with it, you have as soon as they sign up, they get a welcome email, and maybe you give them their free things in that, and maybe you say a little bit about yourself. And then maybe 3 days later, they get another email for you, and it's all automated. And you know, like a week or 2 weeks later, they get another one. And so, and he was recommending setting up all this before you actually go out and hunt for any signups for your mailing list, because you don't want to have this great mailing list and put a lot of effort and maybe spend money on getting people to it, and then it's silence. So, and I admit I don't have an autoresponder series right now, and it's something I may do. I mentioned this before and on there, that I kind of struggle with the fact that I have so many series. So it's hard for me to know. I would have to set up in the backs of the books, figure out which series people came in and signed up from in order to customize something just for them, like short stories and extras from that series. and I'm not sure I'm that dedicated to it, to be honest. I fully admit that the biggest form of marketing I do is just writing the next book and putting it out, putting books out regularly. And since it's working for me, I do definitely try a little bit of all the stuff we have with the guests we have on, anything that sounds interesting, but I'm not as good at the marketing side about doing it and investing the time in it as a lot of people. Are you guys doing autoresponders yet? I know we had Andrea on and we were probably all thinking about it after that show.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I was thinking, well, that might be something I'm interested in setting up, but I will admit that wasn't very high on my priority list, so I have not gotten around to it yet.
I believe I extended my autoresponder from the one standard welcome to I think 3, but it coincided with me sort of not having anything out for a while to attract new signups. So I have no idea if it worked particularly well. So I'll have to, again, as I restructure my future, that will have to be a bigger part of it.
All right. Well, you see how well we pay attention. Although Joe at least wrote a few more, so you're our superstar for the week, Joe. All right. And another thing, I think both he and Monica Leonel, I hope I'm saying your name right, Monica, was there also and talked about business and a little bit about the email stuff too, is just reminding authors to be personable in their emails to readers, not just like, hey, buy my book, new one's out. And I could be more consistent with this. It just has depended on the mood I'm in when I write the email. If it's sort of like, oh crap, I got to write a new email, to announce my new release today, and I'm already like working on the next book, so I'm just don't want to dedicate that much time to it. I sometimes just kind of like list, this is what's out, and I do try to give away some free extras. I occasionally write a story and put it up on the site for them, so it's not just always buy my book, buy my book. But sometimes I'm better about saying like, whatever, dogs are doing this, we had a little adventure this morning, we got snow in Arizona, something like that. So are you remembering to be pretty personable or tell a story or anything in your email, or is that something you try to do at all?
I usually do. I usually try and put like some little tidbit about myself that's going. I usually don't like talking about myself like that, but I usually put in there like, man alive, spoiler alert, if you guys have seen the new Star Wars movie, let me just be the first to start griping about, this one here. If you haven't seen it yet, stop reading. Well, just little stuff like that. And usually with me, mostly just because I'm a huge movie fan, it's usually something along the lines like that. And I usually get quite a few responses back that say, oh man, you're right, that one sucked. And oh, you're totally off the rocker, that one was great. And I'm like, all right, well, everyone has their own opinion. But yeah, I usually do that. I just don't. I learned a long time ago that if I just want to, hey, new book out, great, have a good one, then yeah, I wouldn't get much response to it. So yeah, I have to put something in there.
For me, my newsletters are usually like 2-story. So like the first one is my actual announcement, and the next one is either sort of here's what'll be coming after that, or something else. And because I commission so much art, there's usually that as a little thing like, check out this figurine I got, it's pretty cool, and here's who the person who did it, like that sort of thing. I'm also very good at whenever anybody replies to my newsletter, which happens a few times for every newsletter. I'm always very good about talking back to them because, frankly, I'm excited that anybody actually read it. And also because I have a tendency to make plans that stretch super far into the future, and then I can give people updates on the evolution and abandonment or success of any given plan. So there's almost a narrative thread to my newsletter sometimes.
I got to ask, how full is that cabinet behind you now? Is it full of your stuff?
I'll take a picture later. It's getting pretty full. It's getting to the point where the top shelf, which is the only shelf that gets direct lighting, is starting to cast the lower shelves in shadow, and I'm trying to figure out a new lighting solution. But there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I will often mention like kind of what I'm working on, what's coming up next. So I guess that's telling them a little bit of something. I'm not sure actually as a reader of emails myself if I'm going to sit and read somebody's multi-page story of their life. So I guess what you can do is kind of test it, see what the responsiveness is if you send out a kind of hopefully a scintillating, interesting story about what's going on versus if you're just like, hey, here's the new book. Because I've found that, hey, here's the new book and and here's the other news works fine. I still use the affiliate links, which you shouldn't do, and get a lot of sales from the newsletters. And I'm not sure if anybody actually mentioned this in the conference or if it's just a note I made to myself, but I've definitely found to kind of remember to plug your stuff now and then, like your old stuff in the newsletters, because you can have people coming in new to a new series that don't realize, hey, you've got 3 other series. And I found that whenever I send out a newsletter, no matter what I plug, I get sales of older stuff. So it doesn't hurt to actually mention, oh, by the way, this book 1 series starter is also free if you haven't read this series yet. All right, just a word, we're recording this in case you come in later in the year. It's May 2018, and the GDPR, I forgot to look what that stands for, but in Europe, it's kind of like their Can Spam Act, I think, a little more involved, where they've passing the law. And go listen to the Creative Pen, Joanna Penn. She just talked about this yesterday. But basically, we're going to need to be a little more careful about email lists we gather, because we don't really know usually where our fans are coming from. We're not going to stop someone from Europe from joining our list. So, but basically, it's like you cannot just have people on your list without telling them what they were there for. And Insta Freebie, I think, was a little, not sketchy, but if you got a lot of readers from Insta Freebie, you might want to ping those people and just make sure, like, hey, do you want to be on my mailing list? Because they were basically giving stories in exchange for an email sign-up, which is probably not going to be cool under the new method. And I believe they've already changed how they're doing things.
General Data Protection Regulation, is that it?
Yeah, why didn't that acronym just roll right off my tongue? It's confusing. I don't know.
It's in English, and I'm staring at it right now. And even then, I had to say it slow because I knew I'd slur it together if I tried to say it fast.
Yeah, but it was great that Damon from BookFunnel actually chimed in on this, and he said we're probably all okay if what you're doing is you basically have an email opt-in on your website, and you're saying what they get. Like, you want to make sure and say, like, you're going to get new release announcements from me, or you get a weekly or monthly email from me when they sign up. You can't just give them, say, get this free thing, and I'm going to have to go check and make sure mine are cool. Can't just say, get this free thing, and then start sending them updates every month if you didn't tell them you're going to do that. But he said that since all of us with the typical mailing list sign up, hosting companies will probably should have an unsubscribe link at the bottom, and they went through our website. They had to actually want to get on the list to get on it. A lot of, like, I know Aweber does double opt-in still. So not only do they have to sign up, they have to click a link that verifies that they wanted to sign up. So in those scenarios, we're okay. Just make sure it's clear they know what you're going to get when you sign up. And hopefully this will mean less spam for all of us, readers, emailers, all lists. I don't know about you guys, but I get stuff where I cannot unsubscribe and it ticks me off. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm getting it.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that even though if you didn't sign up for it, don't unsubscribe to it, because that just lets them know your email is good and your spam. This is me putting on my computer tech hat. If you respond to it, you will get the amount of crap messages coming to you triple.
Well, hopefully it sounds like across the world, maybe they're trying to crack down a little bit more. So maybe with nice. a teeny bit less of it. We'll see. And somebody asked a question about culling your email list. If you have done a lot of these getting folks through group promos, oh, that was another thing I want to mention. Be very careful if you did a group promo and somebody just gave you a list of emails at the end and you plugged them into your thing. Those are also people you're going to want to ping and make sure they want to be on your list, because that's really not legit, to be honest. If unless those people knew, like, hey, you're signing up for 12 authors emails and they may all send you monthly or weekly updates after that. Just be real careful with that stuff. All right, but on culling lists, if you have a whole bunch of people, and if you grew your list organically with kind of like back of the book signups, this is the way I've always done it. And I don't have this list of 50,000 people like some people do. But if you grow it organically, your income's probably going to be growing with the size of your list. So it's really going to be no sweat making that payment every month. But if you did a lot of free promos and various things like Insta Freebie to get subscribers, and now you've got 40,000 people and it's hugely expensive and you're about to get bumped up to the next tier, that's when, right, you may want to think of calling some of these people. But you want to be careful, and not just because you don't always get accurate data on who's, you can't just look and say, oh, this person has never opened an email in 3 years. because as Damon pointed out, you see why I think he should have had his own panel. He kept chiming in on stuff. He said, that's not necessarily accurate. He said that most of our hosts mailing list providers insert a pixel into the email, and that is how they know if they get a ping back that the pixel was loaded, that your email is open. But a lot of people have, and I have this too, have inboxes where it doesn't automatically load images. The people have to say, yes, I want to load images. And so if they don't load the images, your provider never gets the ping back. And he had an interesting suggestion, and actually, Joe, it sounds like you're doing this without even thinking about it probably, is that if you put an image in your emails out to your subscribers that they're going to want to look at, like, hello, my newest plushie, here it is, guys, then they're going to load the image, and that's going to load the pixel that's tracking things as well. Jeff, do you have any thoughts from the, the tech hat side of things?
Yeah, that was definitely interesting as heck too. I saw that little blurb about putting something in there that they want to see, thus telling them to load the images, because from the tech point of view, that's one of the things that by default on most email programs is turned off, because theoretically one of those things that's automatically loaded could be a bug or something. So all the email programs will leave it as an option. If you like to load them, click here. But if you put something in there that say, hey, I've got a preview of my upcoming cover here, click here to take a look, or else, it's right here, but you have to enable your images, or I wouldn't even probably mention that. People are usually smart enough to say, my images aren't loading, and they see right up there, click here to load images. That will go ahead and do it too. I was going to mention real quick, and since you haven't actually defined it, I know what it means, but in case we have some listeners who don't know what culling means, it means removing emails from your subscribers, essentially. But yeah, I think that's a really interesting idea. I have to think about that, see what I can do just to make certain I've always got some image in there that people are going to want to look at. Therefore, load it and then let me know how many are opened.
Yeah, doing the right thing by accident is basically my entire business model for the first 4 years of being an author. But
I tell you, man, we need to release a book between the three of us, or get more people involved. What not to do Bible. Thou shalt not release on April 1st.
April Fool's Day, bad day for release. Yeah, but I've always put images, at least one image in every story of my newsletter, and that was mostly because when I was much better about doing website posts, I would always have an image, and then I would have a caption for the image that made sort of a goofy reference to the image, so that people would have to see the image to understand why I was making that reference. So it was inadvertently putting together an entire just sort of running gag that required you to have images loaded. So good for me.
All right, but the reason this all came up is because it can be a little fraught when you're culling people, because sometimes things come up in previews and they are reading the emails, or they're just not opening it. I've had people say to me they don't read the emails. They just like, oh, Lindsay's got a new book out. They see it, and so they assume and just go to Amazon and get it. Nobody mentioned it at the show, but I think if I had a list of 40,000 people or whatever that I built up, first off, I might segregate things or make a new list of like the people who actually click on, like, here's a free story, but I would just try to make my list more profitable, so it pays for itself. You cannot legally or by the TOS put affiliate links into a newsletter, but you can put them on your website and send the newsletter's subscribers to your website with a link. And then don't just advertise your books. Be like, hey, this is the new iPad I got, guys. Or if you're an Apple affiliate, or my mom just got this Kindle Fire, and this is all the things she's been doing with it. It's really cool. And if you want the same one as she has, here's the link to the store. So you really don't need to sell. I mean, it's hard to make a living just as an Amazon affiliate, but if all you need is like maybe to make $200 every time you send out your email, with that many people, you ought to be able to get at least part of the income from affiliate links to Amazon. And so just something to think about. I'm personally glad I don't have to worry about 40,000 people on a list, but that's just me. All right, moving on. This is the last one. Brian Meek, no. This may be a two-part show. We'll see here, guys. All right, the next person I've got notes for is Brian Meeks from his Amazon ads talk. And he actually just did a Q&A and had people asking questions instead of doing like a slide presentation. So the notes may be a little bit scattered here, but I think that my notes have been scattered anyway, so you probably won't be able to tell the difference. But he was saying that to make Amazon ads work, and we've seen this from guests we've had on in our own experiences, you really have to be committed to going in and making new ads every few days, or at least like once a week, and then just killing off older ones, because Amazon's definitely showing preferential treatment to new ads. And you know, you may just tinker with the copy a little bit each time, but he said after 5 days that your impressions and such may drop off by as much as 80%. You may get lucky and have one that does well for longer. I think I had one or two run pretty well when I released my Heritage of Power series, but as I've confessed on here, I haven't even been in the dashboard for 2 months, and I certainly haven't made any more ads. And I definitely did see that the last time I was in there that it had dropped off a lot. So if I was really wanting to keep those running and to keep them being profitable, and this is great if you don't release books that often and you really want to, you've got like 4 books that you're just trying to keep selling and keep the money coming in, and you've proven that the ads can be profitable, like you're making more than you spend, you may want to just keep going in every week and adding more ads. Have you been playing with Amazon ads? Are you doing any of this stuff?
I have not messed with Amazon ads yet. After listening to everybody talk about them, so again, one of those things I'd like to try. Just laziness. I haven't gotten around to trying it yet.
I have run a few Amazon ads in the past. Typically, they were only planned to be running for about a week. Like I was just pushing it for a release. The funny thing is, literally right before I went on my trip, because I was, as I said before the show, I was haven't been doing a lot of writing lately because I had to do a trip to sell some land. But I was looking into it, and the one book I was like, well, I've got one book that's in KU, and it's the one I wrote with Lindsay, the Fallen Empire Kindle World. And then I discovered, oh, because that was not published through KDP, I can't advertise that one with my own ads. So I immediately was stymied in the plan that I had. So yeah, I mean, I have messed with it enough to know that it loses juice pretty quickly after a release. But if I'm going to be doing it more in the future, I just have to be mindful that I'm going to be treating every week like a release almost when I'm planning ads.
This is the kind of thing where it would be nice to hire somebody to do it for you, but it's hard to get other people to care as much about your ROI and how much money you're spending. And it seems like all these things like Facebook ads and stuff, I just hear horror stories from people who are like, yeah, it cost me a lot of money to hire someone and the results weren't that great. So if it's something that's interesting to you, it's definitely something that's working for people right now. It is, and Brian mentioned this, it is getting more competitive. Romance is super competitive, so you're having to bid a lot to get your ads shown. But and then even sci-fi, he said, is getting pretty competitive. You could still find like little teeny niche things and target niche keywords and maybe get a click down to like 13 to 15 cents a click. But a lot of people are bidding more than 35 cents a click now. And if you're got like a 99-cent book and you're only going to make max of 35 cents on it, that numbers are not going to work. And for most of us here with Flagship series, it's easier because you can afford, you know, once you figure out how many people are reading through your series of the people that buy book 1 and basically how much a new reader is worth to you, like maybe if they read to the end, if 1 in 3 people who picks up your book 1, buys it, reads to the end, maybe they're worth like $21, whatever it ends up being for your series, then okay, I can spend $10 acquiring that reader and getting them in maybe. And he actually mentioned somebody that was in sci-fi that he'd worked with that had 8 books out in a series, and he was advertising a book 1 that was free, which is funny because I have Star Nomad on there right now. I'll have to go check and see and it's free, see if the ads are doing anything. Probably not, since they're from last summer. But anyway, the guy was able to bid 35 cents a click and he, you know, get enough people downloading the free book and going through the series that it was profitable by about book 4. They did notice that you got to give people time, like 60 days to maybe work all the way through the whole 8 books in the series and to really get an idea of whether you're actually coming out on top or not. You can't, that was kind of his theme with everything on here. He's like, don't hurry, you know, don't rush to turn things off after 3 days if there's nothing showing up on sales on the ACOS, Amazon cost of sale, I think it was. because this reporting is really slow on that. And he actually said he just hated it altogether and didn't really look at it as a gauge, especially if you're doing Kindle Unlimited stuff. The borrows don't show up in there. But in addition to it being good for a series, he was pointing out something that I think we should all, that was really good, a takeaway, and he mentioned this in his presentation last fall too at the 20 books thing, was that basically you're going to spend a lot less on ads if your blurb and your cover and everything on your book page is really squared away and awesome. Like he said that when he started, he was like getting 1 in 30 people would actually buy the book. And then once he tinkered with his ad copy, it was down to like 1 in 10. And he said now he's got it down to 1 in 8. So you can send more clicks to your book and make more money if you're converting good on your book page. So you want to really make sure you're not wasting money on ads if you have a mediocre cover and if you've got the wall of text kind of blurb. You know, he said you want to have a lot of white space. I haven't actually read any copywriting books yet. I'm sure it wouldn't be a bad idea to do so. But he mentioned that he'd read a book on copywriting and that really helped him improve. Have you guys, sounds like you've only done a little bit on ads. Have you tinkered at all with that kind of thing and trying to track how many people actually buy once they get to your book page?
I have not yet anyways.
No, the only thing I've done recently that I've sort of been able to track anything like that is, you mentioned earlier, sort of pitching your older books in every email or in your newsletter or periodically in your newsletter. And I added links to all of my promo-free series starters and sort of saw my downloads sort of spike up and plateau. So that's the only thing I've really been able to track as successful lately.
All right, and I kind of had a problem that he did acknowledge on the show and said it's harder to do. It's just that, especially I tend to do these around the book launches, so it's really hard to just judge which sales come from the Amazon ads. And since he said the ACOS numbers are flaky and you can't really go by that well, it's tough. It would be a lot easier if you're maybe going back 5 years or something and advertising an old series, an old book where the sales have fallen off and your sales ranking is above 500,000 or something, then you could really see like, hey, 10 clicks is ending up in getting me an extra sale every day. So it's not that you can't gauge it the other way, but it'd be tougher. So also good point he made on the blurb, the book blurb itself on your page, not the copy for the ad, but the same would apply, is that a lot of authors get into this thing where we think we have to put a synopsis of the book in the blurb, and that's not, you don't need to do that. If you ever read any agents will give instructions or lectures on query writing, how to write a query letter. Joe's apparently looking at a spider on his ceiling over his head. Video chat.
Well, if we hear a blood-curdling scream and he disappears, we'll know the reason why.
We'll let you know if we see it descending, Joe.
Right. The big concern is when I don't see it anymore. So.
All right, but yeah, so your blurb for your book does not have to tell a synopsis. It doesn't even have to tell you that much about the story at all. It just has to hook the reader into wanting to like grab the sample or buy the book. So don't get caught up in like, I have to like explain everything that's going on. All right, so as we mentioned, he was paying, in order to figure out if it's profitable, you really need to figure out what your read through is and how much you're making for the series as a whole. And one last note I have here, I'm kind of trying to skim over things since we're already been blabbing for about an hour, was just that he did mention that if you've been doing the same book one over and over for a while, even if you're making new ads and it's not as effective, it may just be that everybody's seen it and they're kind of burned out on it and Amazon doesn't care about it anymore. So this may be a time when it makes sense to advertise book 4 in the series or whatever your new release is. I'm not sure I would do that because I don't write the kind of series where you can jump in at book 4. You really need to have read the earlier books. But if you've got a series where that's possible, or if you're concurrently running a sale on book 1 where it's free maybe, then maybe doing book 2. But he just mentioned that Amazon tends to give a little extra love to books that haven't been advertised before. So I'm actually thinking I may do new ones for all my series starters. None of them are in KU, Kindle Unlimited, and that's fine. you may actually find an easier time tracking things because it's just going to be reporting sales in your
When you say
hidden
new ones, do
dashboard.
you mean new ads, new blurbs, new covers? What are you referring to?
New ads.
Ah,
Not that I'm sure they could all use new covers and new blurbs, but no, a lot of the stuff, most of my stuff, I've never tried to run an Amazon ad on. And so I do have, like I said, the book ones of the 8-book series that could be profitable. So I may try that with some of my older stuff. I know I'm never going to be in there every week tinkering with things. It may be just a little between projects. I will jump in and try to run some ads. We will see. But yeah, are you guys thinking you might try more on Amazon ads? It seems fairly effective right now if you're willing to pay enough to get.
yeah,
No.
I keep hearing that people are having really good results with it, but I'm also hearing that if you want good results, it's something you have to do consistently, and stay on top of it over and over and over. I'm like, do I want to do that, or I just want to keep writing here? And so far, the writing seems to be working pretty good, but one of these times I want to try it just to see how well it'll work for me.
Yeah, I've like I said, right within the last few days, I was looking at it, and I'm probably going to be, dipping my toe in the waters of doing some ads. I don't foresee myself being the kind of person who stays on top of it and swaps them out weekly and does A/B tests, which means I should probably temper my expectations for huge success. Plus, I'm wide, and therefore Amazon ads, which are the ones that I intend to tinker with, are only going to help me in really one place.
Yeah, I do think it's worth doing this at least around the launch of a new series. I've done it the last couple of times and especially helped with the kind of high fantasy series I did with the dragon on the front. So there you go. The man chest oddly did not do that well with Amazon ads with last summer with my pen name. So I don't know, experiment with your own book. And
You probably targeted men with the men chess.
no, I didn't. I did all the sci-fi romance authors. I know men only secretly like man chest.
Excuse me, Dusty.
All right, moving on to the last talk that I have notes for. There were some other talks, but I didn't necessarily take notes on everything, especially when I was so wiped out after mine. I was like stressing about it that I have no idea what Jay and Zach did one on collaboration, and it's all a blur. But Monica talked about kind of the business side of things and creating product funnels, which is basically where you've got, and we've talked about this on the show before, so you probably already know, but a free or low cost product that can get people in the door and is kind of an easy sell. And then after they know you, they like your work, they're going to be willing to buy higher priced items, i.e. full price books for the rest of the series. And she pointed out that most people are not going to jump from knowing nothing about you to buying a $9.99 ebook. And what was kind of interesting about her talk is she brought up the fact, she called it the novelist's dilemma. She mentioned that in most industries, artists, musicians, nonfiction authors, that they have higher priced items than just like $4 or $5 books. She was talking like anywhere from $100 to thousands of dollars for, like you might go in person to see the musician at an event, or the nonfiction authors often sell courses on the side, and the book is actually just a gateway for them. It's not the end game. But this is not very often true in the fiction world. And she pointed out, we know now of lots of multi-6-figure authors out there, but not too many multi-7-figure authors are in the business. There are certainly some, but you can almost name all of the people that would be, either because they're big trad published names or because they're indies and they're launching a new book in the top 100 every other week. And she didn't really have a solution. She kind of was just saying she's hoping some people will kind of pave the road. I will say that if you're doing kind of Patreon or Kickstarter, you can get people up into maybe doing $100 or more a year. Even if you've just got a $10 a month Patreon, that gets there. I know when I did my Kickstarter for my audiobooks, this was pretty early on, like 2012. I remember being floored because I think there were 2 people that did $500 and one person did $250 to like name characters and basically get paperbacks and maybe a digital version of the audiobook. I don't even remember what the prize was, but it was interesting that once you get a fan base out there, you will have some folks in there that are comfortable paying more and maybe willing to do so for special things that you put out. Have you guys Any thoughts on that? I don't know whether authors should even consider this or what they might consider if they did.
I really don't, to tell you the truth. I mean, I've heard of other authors doing like the Patreons and whatnot, but I'm not sure I'd be willing to take it on, at least not yet anyway.
I've thought about it a bit. I mean, like as you say, you're gonna have people in your audience that are willing to pay the higher price for stuff, but the issue is the size of the audience needs to. You have an audience big enough where there's enough of the people who are interested in doing that to pay for the overhead of having that thing. So again, I've got a cabinet full of stuff, which if it were to be made available to the public would cost on the order of hundreds of dollars. But I would have to put up tens of thousands of dollars in order to make those hundreds of dollar things available, like custom plushes and custom figurines and stuff. And I know that there's 3 or 4 people in my audience who would buy something that special and that expensive, but 3 or 4 is not a high enough number to actually do it. So yeah, figurines or custom hardbound copies of your books and stuff. I mean, people are usually already starting with this if they're selling autographed copies of their books. So we get into the $20 range easy, but when you get into the $100 and $200 range, then you really need a big audience.
I think, and this came up too, selling physical products, and I kind of backed away from that because I had to do all that fulfillment with the Kickstarter, and I learned right away that selling physical stuff is a pain in the butt, not only because you have to like manage taxes if you're selling it from your website, but just doing the signing, shipping, ordering, sending things out. I don't know, it's probably not something I would want to get to. And kind of, I thought events was kind of an intriguing thing because I actually know some romance authors that have done stuff like that. And, I don't know, they may be more outgoing in general. As introverts, it's kind of hard to imagine me hosting an event. Maybe if you had somebody working with you, but it would be kind of fun if that was sort of the one thing she said that was most intriguing to me. I don't know if I'll ever do it, but I'm moving to Sedona, Arizona, which is like tourist capital of the state, if not the Southwest. So it would be like you could see this place at the same time as we hang out and do this thing. But I really don't know. Would you get more than 3 people that would do it? And then, you may have people willing to pay $500 to get characters named after them, but that's not very scalable. And I don't know how many of us actually aspire to make multi-million dollars a year. I feel like this is probably maybe not the business you get into if that's your goal. I think a lot of us are just like, dude, I made like 100,000. That's awesome. I did what I want in my PJs and I didn't have to talk to anybody all year. How could it be better than that? But it was interesting that she brought it up, and it would be curious to see how to do it without really getting away from still being an author. Like I know Michael Anderle's got this big publishing business now. And Michael, you got to come on the show someday if you're ever listening. We would love to have you on. But I look at all the work he's created for himself. He's basically a publisher now in addition to being an author, and I just like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do any of that. So and I feel like I represent many authors that we just want to do our thing in the PJs. But yeah, she did mention that kind of the reason she thinks most authors aren't doing it is that we're kind of codependent on the retailers. If Amazon changed anything, most of us would be hugely effective. That we lack a real model. Like I said, there's really not that many people doing this right now. Most authors' path into getting into that kind of income is having movies or series picked up and made by Hollywood. And that's kind of the way to break into the superstardom that is necessary for that kind of income. And then a lot of us just kind of fear to ask the question that why would my readers spend 100, 200, or 500 on us? And that's a valid point. She did, I think it was her or somebody in the audience said that maybe surveying your readers through a newsletter could give you some ideas. Is there any premium type products that they would be interested in? And are they also things you would be interested in too? And she kind of finished up with a quote by Taylor Swift, which I guess I didn't know she was wise as well as a singer, but she said it was just that many people can be accidentally successful for 3 or 4 years, but a career takes work. And we talked about this. I talked about this in the closing Q&A, was just that how many people, and we were just talking about this before the show, how many people who were killing it back in 2010, 2011 when we started up. And you go look at them on Amazon now, and they got people haven't put a new book out in 3 years, and you're like, what the heck happened to them? So it's hard to create a sustainable way to regularly and consistently continue to put books out and to be happy with it and to keep evolving and paying just enough attention to the marketing stuff that you don't fall by the wayside because you're stuck doing the things you did 5 years ago and now they're not working and you're complaining about visibility on Amazon. So I don't know, do you guys have any thoughts on that? I'm going to kind of wrap it up here pretty soon.
No, I pretty much covered everything. The only question I have is for you. What sort of bribe did they have to give you to get you, the stereotypical introvert, up in front of a whole bunch of people and giving a talk?
Brian Cohen has those puppy dog eyes. So he asked you to do something. I'm like, okay. I don't actually mind talking on panels, just answering questions. I'm okay with the off-the-cuff stuff. But yeah, putting together slides, I hadn't done that since college many years ago, and I was just I don't know, I like to wing it a little bit more than that, and I'm sure if you talk all the time you get more comfortable with it. But no, and you'll see most people who speak at these things, they also have a nonfiction product line, so it's like a self-promo thing even if they're not promoting themselves. And like, I'm gonna go get Star Nomad, guys. It'll teach you all about the things I've been talking about. Okay, it won't. But yes, so that was the answer to that question. And just in wrapping up, we were talking about this before we started recording too, is that, and I talked about this in my talk a bit, was just the fact that when we got started, I remember the big, everybody was like, go read Kevin Kelly's big article on finding 1,000 true fans. And, you know, he was saying that if you have 1,000 true fans, each willing to pay $100 a year, you can make $100,000. And of course, you have additional fans buying some of your stuff too. And I really liked that, and I really took that to heart when I first got it started, because it wasn't about like, how am I going to rank on Amazon this week? You know, I'm going to try to hit the USA Today list, the New York Times list, and I just want to sell X many books, and I want to make this much money a month. It was really just about kind of, you know, maybe one at a time, finding these fans who will become super fans and eventually buy everything that you put out. And why is this important? I feel like we're kind of coming back to this time where this is going to be an important thing, like, because we've gotten into this, there have been so many ways to like use KDP Select and KU, and there have been a lot of things that have allowed us, I won't say game the system, although there was some of that along the way. There have been like certain little hacks that you've been able to do in order to boost your ranking and visibility on Amazon. But as so many people are paying thousands of dollars a month now for ads, it's going to be super hard, I think, to have a new book debut into those top 100s of those categories. And it's going to be harder and harder to get the visibility that were able to get maybe a few years ago. But as I was telling the guys back when we got started, there were no advertising options. So it was actually the same kind of thing back in 2010. Maybe you got a little lucky, which always happens to some people, and maybe you accidentally did something that helped you get seen. But for most of us, we were kind of like, man, we're just out there on social media pimping our stuff, you know, trying to get people to download our book. And I think we're kind of coming back into that time, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to just focus on kind of getting your book one into the hands of as many readers as possible and worrying about sort of building a fan base one at a time rather than like, how can I sell 20,000 books this week? So hopefully that is something we can all do. And do you guys have any closing thoughts before we head out?
I do not.
I just say, yeah, like staying successful is really hard, and you can't depend. It's like, what am I going to put it? Buying lottery tickets is not a career, you know. So if you've gotten lucky in the past, it behooves you to learn what the people who aren't lucky and are merely really hard workers are doing, and do some of that, because luck is not a retirement plan. So that's what I'm going to try to do, and have been trying to do since the beginning.
Hear, hear.
All right, very good. And I will, for the show notes for this episode, I will get the Andrea Pearson link to the older show that we had, and I also will include the links to the books by the folks that spoke, because I think you may find them interesting. If you haven't read Brian Meeks's Amazon Ads book yet, Definitely a lot of good information in that if that's something you're interested in. And all the speakers have good books. You know, Chris Fox is on here and he's wise beyond his years. So and also able to articulate it, which is not always easy. But it's going to be episode 180, and the links will be at marketingsff.com if you are interested. Do you guys have anything of yours you want to plug before we sign off here?
Everything I was getting ready to plug was pretty much covered at the first of the show, so I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, you can pre-order Cypher Hill right now, and that's my plug for now.
All right, I don't have anything going on, but you guys should all, if you have any Audible credits and want to check out Jeff's work, let's help his narrator get paid. We don't care if Jeff makes any money on this royalty split thing, but we don't want his narrators to be high and dry. So.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for listening, everyone, and have a great week.
All right, take it easy.
So long, everybody.